Let's get to the footy. So, Jerome Luai, he's been brought in for Moses. How do you see this playing?
I do. Daniel loved this about our game, where you see those photos of him standing at the back of Campbelltown Stadium on the phone, the lorry, the heartbreak of missing out on the pinnacle of our game. Just in a hollow tunnel at Campbelltown Stadium, and now all of a sudden we get to see a response from Jerome Luai, who loves the big stage, loves playing with Nathan Cleary. Those days are limited now that they don't get to do it every week at Penrith. He gets to reignite that love and that bromance with Toto and Crichton and Liam Martin, the Penrith boys. And you only got to go back to... There was a lot of focus last year on Mitch Moses, and deservedly so. I thought he was brilliant. But to go to Suncorp, and you've been there, Braith, as a New South Welshman. It's a brutal place to go. But the moments that Luai created, and more importantly, his ability to unlock Latrell Mitchell in Game 2 in Melbourne, his ability to unlock Bradman Best in Game 3, his ability to be able to unlock those around him, I think is one of his greatest accolades. We don't always focus on the big moment, but if you go back and look at big moments, Jerome Luai's in there.
Yeah, right. Are they better with him? Are they a better team with Luai in it?
I think for this game, if you look at Luai, can you imagine the buzz that he would feel after the season that he's had at the Tigers, and not just the 5 previous Penrith players that he left that are still at that football club, but you also throw in Stephen Crichton and Spencer Leniu as well. So the band is back together for him. That buzz, I think it adds a different element of strength to New South Wales, especially with his ability to come off both feet and really test the inside. Also, when I think of Jerome Luai, I think of confrontation. And I think that might just be needed this time around. I think it is going to be a very different game too than what we saw in Game 1.
So do I. Now, New South Wales have got a great team. They're star-studded all across the park. Heavy favourites. But what's the most important thing for New South Wales to get right tomorrow night?
I'd say it's mindset. So, looking at this series, the hardest job is done. From a New South Wales perspective, to go to Suncorp Stadium and get the win is the hardest of all those 3 tasks that face you. And the hardest one is done on the first assignment. So now, where do you go from there? Like, do they go in with the attitude of the hardest job is done when the work is just getting started? That for me is going to be the biggest challenge. And also, we've all been in teams where we speak about anticipating a response. You know it's coming, but how many times do teams fail to respond knowing that response is coming?
It's a great point. That's the key. They have to be able to reset and restart, but they have to do it. The physical part of the game is vital, because Queensland are going to get in the gutter. There's no doubt about it. Like, if you look at New South Wales' side on paper and the form, individually, you can go through the majority of that side. In New South Wales at the moment, probably got the elite squad. We'd all probably, I certainly agree with that. Yeah. But I think Queensland, we will see I've got no doubt we're going to see a completely different Queensland side tomorrow. And it's going to be brutal. It's going to be line speed. They're going to be agitating Cleary. They're going to be knocking Cleary and Luai when they're kicking the ball. They're going to be shoving heads in the ground. They're going to squeeze and have time on the ground. Like, it's going to explode tomorrow night. You could see and part of that emotion that we spoke about off the top about Billy Slater just shows the emotion and how important this is. We saw some moments from Cameron Munster today, sitting in the press conference, comments from him on the radio over the weekend about attacking like mongrel dogs. So I think we're about to see this series get completely turned on its head tomorrow night. Yeah. I think we saw a reasonably friendly opening game at Suncorp. I think we're going to talk about this game for many years to come. I've got that feeling that there's a classic Origin coming tomorrow that's going to be spiteful and it's going to be brutal.
This might be a hard one for you to answer. DC, you're not there. We got Dearden in there. Does he deserve his spot, and are we a better side now?
I don't think it was the right call, Gordy. Yeah. I just think, with what Queensland have spoken about for so long publicly and been so public about how they look after their own, the fact that they had their captain who's given so much for that jersey, and I said it, you only got to go back to Game 1 last year where they came to Accor Stadium and he was best on ground. And if you look at his game, he wasn't that bad. The only try, really, that came was off the kicking game of Cherry Evans. And I thought Harry Grant took away moments of Daly Cherry Evans being able to get his game on. And their forward pack was beaten comprehensively. I thought they could have, as a staff, and as a state lent into Daly Cherry Evans's final series and the champion getting an opportunity to turn the series on its head over in Perth. I think we all love Tom Dearden. We all love the parts of Tom Dearden's game that we celebrate every weekend at club level. But I thought, with what Queensland have spoken about, whether it's the pick and stick or just the way they want to celebrate looking after their own, I thought he deserved a shot in Perth.
I probably think this call has come 3 weeks too late. I thought this should have been made prior to Origin 1, or he remains your skipper for the rest of the series. That's just my personal opinion. But obviously, Coach Slater will have analysed the game in way more depth and analysis than I did and I would. And he's made that call, but it's bold.
What about Cameron Munster?
I think he's in for the game of his life. I really do. When you look at the leaders that are already there in that Queensland team, we've got Tino, Carrigan, Cotter that skippers his team at Clubland, Harry Grant that is the skipper. So Coach Slater, when he named his team, he didn't name a captain. And I think that was in order to speak to Cam Munster around what his feelings were. Because being made a captain, it does change you. It's something that changed me, not necessarily for the better. It was a bit of a burden at times. But for Cam Munster, when you've got those four others around you, that says to me that he's up for this challenge. I think we're going to see a magnificent game from him.